Hey everyone, welcome back to the Scaling Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Harper, and on today's episode, we are talking to Alex Nelson, who built a wedding venue business from the ground up before he was even married. Alex and his wife saw how far out venues were booking, had a light bulb moment, and decided to build their own. They found land, figured out financing, and launched a modern high-end venue that now hosts weddings for up to 300 guests every single weekend.
Probably the biggest downfall, I would say, like people see like the big dollar amounts from weddings in general, capitalizing on that. They see wedding or venues booking out year to 2 years in advance. But the biggest downfall is you only have so many dates. So without opening up another location, we do get pretty limited. We're probably starting to hit our max. Of course, like over the years, like we will be able to raise rates, alcohol prices we'll be able to raise. We can do additional add-ons. Like we're starting to get deeper and deeper into like date coordination, and we do like a commission split with the girls that do that. We can look to like add on like a rental. We could basically turn ourselves into like a rental company and rent out decor.
We talk about how they saved for the project, booked nearly 100 weddings before even opening the business, and how Alex balanced all of this while working 2 full-time remote jobs. It's a killer story about execution and grit and entrepreneurship and taking massive swings early before you have all the answers. Let's dive in. All right, Alex, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better. We were just talking before, we've been internet friends for a while on Twitter, so now we get an opportunity to connect.
Yeah. Seems like most of my friends come from Twitter nowadays, so like-minded people, right? So
yeah, if you would have asked me if a lot of my friends would be coming from Twitter 5 years ago, I'd be like, no, that'd
right?
be weird.
Yeah. Even 2 years ago for me, my wife's always like, "Who are you talking to?" It's like, someone I met from Twitter.
Yeah, my wife. I just got back from Holdco conference, and my wife's like, "Wait, so you're going to Sundance and you're just gonna like ski and snowboard for a few days?" I'm like, "Yeah," and she's like, "With people that you know from Twitter?" I was like, "Yeah,
yeah, it's normal.
Like,
it makes sense."
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming on the show. Talk to me. So you started this wedding venue business. Now you've acquired another business. But
Yep.
give the listeners or viewers a little bit of background on you, and catch me up to speed, and we'll probably double click on some different things as we go along.
Yeah, definitely. So born and raised in Iowa. I'm still located in Iowa, like Cedar Rapids, Iowa City area. My wife and I, we both went to like University of Iowa. The big reason we started the venue was like we had been together a super long time, so like we knew we were going to get engaged like shortly after college, probably. So naturally, my wife was looking at venues before we even got engaged, and like that was kind of like when we started seeing them getting booked out for 2 years in advance, and we're like, what is going on? And
Right.
sort of thing. So we ended up actually booking a venue before we got engaged, which felt crazy at the time. Now being in the wedding space is actually not that crazy, just because venues do book out so far in advance and people have to get that date before you can do anything else, really. So that was kind of like light bulb moment of like, very interesting business and business model. In college, I got deep into like reading real estate books and thought for sure I'd go down like the real estate path. And this just kind of seemed like, and then I was also interested in business, and my brother had done a couple startups, and I'd kind of like done work for him here and there during college. Fast forward later on, and I'm actually working for him full time too for one of his startups. So I knew like I love business, I love finance, I loved real estate, and then this ended up kind of being like a mesh of all of them. And my wife liked the weddings side of it. So fast forward a couple years, we got married, bought a house, all the things. My wife was teaching actually at the time, and then COVID hit, and COVID was pretty much hell for her, during like teaching world days, and kind of getting used to that. And she's also just the type that would like go in early, to get ready for the day. She would stay late, like getting ready for the next day. So it's like, she's like, and we can dive in this later too. I ended up like working like two full-time like remote jobs, which is part of how we saved up enough capital like to actually do the venue. But like she was working more than I was when doing both of those, and she was just like teaching. I was like, "What are we doing here?" She really like wanted to get out of it, so I started talking about like wedding planning, and then we kind of just went back down that like wedding venue kind of rabbit hole that we were talking about a few years earlier. Just didn't have enough money for. So yeah, long way of saying that's kind of how like we fell into it. Definitely wasn't easy. We definitely were still super young at that time. I think we were like 25-ish when we started the process. We ended up opening a couple years later when we were like 27 or so. But officially opened the venue 2022, October 2022. So really only a few full years of operating now, but it feels like it's been an eternity. We started taking bookings we started taking bookings in July of 2021. So a big part of our thing was we ended up booking almost like 100 weddings before we actually opened up.
Wow, that's wild.
So yeah, that was that was a wild time. Yeah, and then that kind of just led to our next things. I don't know if you want to stop there at all, but
Well, yeah. So let me ask a few questions there. So you were 27. Was the business existing, or did you start it from scratch?
yeah, we started it from scratch, built ground up,
Okay.
got land under contract, and basically tried to put the pieces together from there as far as financing and all the designs and all the fun stuff. So
And then how big is the property?
yeah, so the building itself is about 8,400 square foot, like finished on the inside. We do have like a large covered patio out back, so roof line like roughly 11,000 square foot, I believe. And the actual property itself is only like 2.5 acres. So we went with like a little different than most people would think of, like a barn venue, like on 10 acres kind of thing. We went like modern, like in between two kind of smaller metro areas, I guess if you want to call them that, are in Iowa. We don't have big cities, but yeah,
So it can fit weddings up to any
300.
size, or
300 is
Okay.
our max. Yep, yeah,
So you buy this land. You're like, I'm going to build this wedding venue from scratch.
yeah.
You're 27 years old.
25
How do you
when we
get
got
the
the land under contract. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you get the capital for a 2.5, like, and she's teaching coming out of COVID, so like where'd the capital come from?
Yeah, yeah. So capital came from like surprisingly like us personally, for the most part. So we came out of college together. We worked a lot. I worked a lot during college. I basically, and my roommates always made fun of me, but I ended up basically just taking like all remote classes and like working like 40 hours a week towards like the end of college. And really just, I mean, I didn't have many expenses at that time except for like $400 in rent. So I saved up like a little bit of money, and then out of college, I had a couple jobs. Ended up getting like a remote job. It was for like a realty brokerage. I was doing like helping with like online leads, like inside sales. I kind of called it too. So it's semi commission based. Did decent. I was maybe making like 60, 70. My brother had a startup that I started doing finance work on the side, so like paying their invoices and kind of just mapping things out for them, like a bunch of like busy work essentially. And I started making like 15K, 20K, like part time, and then they raised a bunch of capital. I ended up going like full time with them and got a decent salary, but I kind of kept my other like other kind of remote job for a while. So all in all, I think there was a short time I was making 150, pushing 200K maybe, like if you broke it down like monthly and like worked out yearly. I didn't do that for a crazy amount, but like we were 24, 25, and I mean, it
Yeah.
was all pretty lucky. So then throwing my wife's like salary too, no kids yet, like pretty much just banking all that we could. So we saved up 100, 150K. I learned about like SBA loans. So I was like, all right, we could build this thing for like 1.5, like we could actually do this, like 10% down, like
Yeah.
so it was almost that young dumbness that like let us get into it, because
Yeah.
then like with the SBA you can, so if you start paying for things, even like a consultant, or like we started doing like paying for like some building plans and things like that, and like you can count that all towards like your down payment essentially, or like the project costs. So we ended up like fronting probably a good 100K before we even like officially got the green light. And looking back is like really stupid, but at the time it's like we had no other choice. Like we'll make it work. So we did that, and like there was no point where I had like the 150 saved up, but like then we just started spending it and kept trying to save more and add to it. We did not end up building for 1.5. It was way closer to like 3 million. Um, so yeah, so we had to piece together some more money. Some of our family ended up chipping in, not until like towards the end though. Like we had already had all the
Right.
plans, we already fronted all of our money. Like we literally had bookings like already coming in, and then they were like, oh yeah, maybe this is a good idea. And we don't come from like wealthy families or anything like that, so they gave a decent amount, I think like 80 grand between a couple people, so nothing crazy, but yeah.
How'd you get the project cost to go from 1.5 to 3 million? And then was
Well,
the
yeah.
SBA like, well, we're already in on this, so we got to give you more money?
Well, the 1.5 was just never real, right? Like that's why I thought like I could get it done
Yeah. Yeah.
for. Like builders were telling me probably more like two, and I was like, nah, we'll make it work. Like we don't need all this stuff, blah blah. But the
Right.
deeper you got into it, it's like if you're gonna spend the money, you gotta build it right, sort of thing. I think our first like real budget was like 2.2, but that was like we were like mid COVID, so then things got delayed a couple months. We go get new bids, like all skyrocketed. Like every single sub, every single
Right.
thing was like crazy. And we had switched builders a few times, and they were missing some stuff anyway. So it kind of like naturally just like got like higher and higher and higher. We did have to go back to the bank a few times and get approvals, and we got like denied on the third time. So yeah, that was a crazy time and very, very
So
stressful. But
so so yeah, that sounds like starting a business. I mean, I can relate
yeah,
to like everything. You have a plan, and then your plan like doesn't happen, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, this is like the new plan.
right.
So I can totally relate. So what you sold 100 weddings before you opened? Is that because you knew you needed the cash flow and you needed the deposits from those weddings? Or talk to me a little bit about how that happened.
Yeah. So that wasn't necessarily like the idea, like we needed the cash. It did end up kind of working out like that, but like we did need the cash. But we just weddings book out like a year and a half in advance, right? So like if you're going to build this $3 million building, you open up in 2024, whatever, 2022, and like you can't wait a year and a half to have like actual weddings, like to start booking then and then have those weddings happening down the line. Um, like we wanted to have like weddings like the moment we opened up. So we started taking bookings in July 2021, I think it was. We thought we were going to be done in like July 2022. Um, Long kind of story. We got the land under contract. It was a part of like a bigger like development. So then this like developer was kind of like pre-sold the lots, told us it'd be ready to start building and digging on in July. But he couldn't get like the final plat approval from the county because this like one part for this like water lift station they're putting in the back of this big development was delayed because of COVID or something. So that got delayed from July all the way to April of 2022. Um, so that kind of like makes the story, or like we booked more weddings in that time, but we ended up having to push some of the weddings that we did have back from like July back to like October. They either like rescheduled and went to other venues, or we gave them like half off if they stayed with us. That was not fun telling couples that whole thing, and it was probably like the worst part of the journey. But yeah, so we tried to give ourselves like a cushion. It was supposed to be like a 78 month build. We were like, we won't take weddings for like a year out, like give us like 4 or 5 months cushion, and then slowly we just ate into that. It ended up going even longer, and then the project costs kept going up and up the entire time as well. So luckily we did have a bunch of weddings like already become booked, and like getting those deposits, and also that kind of gave the bank like way more confirmation, that this was going to be okay, but super stressful, kind of very dramatic to be honest. But we survived.
How how did you decide on weddings? Like, there's tons of businesses you could start.
Yeah.
What was it about weddings and building an event venue from scratch? Like, what went into that decision?
Yeah, so I think kind of what we always say, at least what we say now, is like we were like the clients, right? Like we were 24, 25, like fresh out of college, like started looking at these venues, and we toured like all the venues in our area, and like we basically just looked at it like we could do this better. Like we weren't like finding exactly what we were looking for. I think like bridal suites just become started becoming a thing, like but nowhere had like groom suites sort of thing, you know? So like or like, oh, we should build one and do this and that, and like all these things that we change. Um, so I think it was like that, us going through like the process, and then all of our friends getting married like shortly after that. Jordan comes from a big family. It's like one side of her family had like 30 cousins that were like all in like the same age. So like in that like couple year period, we're going to like weddings like every weekend essentially. So it was very like top of mind. And then Jordan, my wife, she loved weddings in general too, and kind of being a part of them. Was in quite a few weddings, you know, help other people. She's coming from like teacher world, so she was naturally like organized and that sort of thing. I liked like the real estate aspect of it. It was like a big, beautiful property, charge way more than you can a rental, you know, kind of thing. Bigger dollar signs. So kind of like the combo of the two is how we fell into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And explain to me like the model. So what's your average customer pay? Are there additional upsells? Like, how big is the business now? Like, talk
Yep.
to me a little bit about whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. So average customer, you know, we're booking. We usually do weddings like every Saturday for sure. Our peak season's like May through October. So then you're talking like usually every Friday, Saturday, sometimes Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Um, so Saturday's like more expensive. Friday's a little cheaper. Sunday's a little cheaper. Our rental is like 7,500, 8,000 for like Saturday. And that's just like the venue. So we are like the tables, the chairs. We have like staff that work the event. We don't plan their wedding. That is like additional charge. Like to be like we have like day of coordinators, we call it. So it's like a step down from wedding planning. Um, and then they have to buy the alcohol from us. So we are like pretty much venue rental and then alcohol sales. Everything else like caterer, they bring in their own caterer, florist, all that stuff is all separate. That's how we operate the venue space in general. There's so many different models because you could be like all inclusive. So like you could go to a venue and they do the catering, the alcohol, all this. Traditionally, they'd probably be more expensive to do it that way, but it'd be like a couple that you know doesn't care about budget sort of thing. We are in the Midwest. A lot of people care about budget, so like letting them bring in their own vendors, caterers, that sort of things lets them like kind of like design that and figure it out. We never want to like X-nay a client like before they even get to our space, just based on like budget alone or because they can't bring in a certain vendor, blah blah. So we will do roughly close to 80 weddings this year, I think 78 or so. And with that, we'll do about $1 million in revenue, just for the one location, our venue. I think our first full year was like 750. Last year we did closer to 900. This year we should do over 1 million. So
That's
I don't know
great.
if that answers.
So yeah, no, that's great. So average customers values 10 grand
10
and
to
then you
15,
get
yeah.
10 to
Yep.
15. And then do you get like kind of referral fees for different vendors and stuff on top of that and stuff like to get that job size or average customer up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we have like a preferred vendor list is what we call it. So we get some kickbacks from that. The couples can still don't have to pick those vendors. There's different models on that too, of course. Like some venues like you have to pick from their like mandatory vendors, and they'd probably get bigger kickbacks from those guys, like upwards of 20% or more in like the 10% range.
Okay.
But yeah, there's that too.
And I guess like how big can the business get? What's the current constraint if there is one? And because it sounds like, I mean, there's only so many days in a year, right? So like, I mean,
Yeah.
are there other things you could do to maximize value on the property, or like, what's your plan for the business? I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is probably the biggest downfall. I would say like people see like the big dollar amounts from weddings in general, you know, capitalizing on that. They see wedding or venues booking out year to 2 years in advance. But the biggest downfall is you only have so many dates. So like without opening up another location, we do get pretty limited. We're probably starting to hit our max. Of course, like over the years, like we will be able to raise rates, alcohol prices we'll be able to raise. We can do additional add-ons. Like we're starting to get deeper and deeper into like data coordination, and we do like a commission split with the girls that do that. We can look to like add on like a rental. We could basically turn ourselves into like a rental company and rent out decor. We could get into the catering game. We could do all these things if we really, really wanted to. That's never really been like where our passion has lied. You could basically add on like 3 or 4 other businesses on top of it if you wanted to. We are definitely more of like, we like the venue, and we like outsourcing the other things. So let's take on the alcohol because the margins are great there, but let's not try to do too much. And the day of coordination stuff is really even more so like for the girls that work for us, to give them an opportunity to make more money. So for us, it'd probably be to really, really grow, it'd be open like another location. We've looked at quite a few venues for sale. I looked mostly after getting on Twitter, like just around the country in general. More recently, we've looked more local, but nothing's kind of hit. I don't know if we're just super biased because we built from the ground up and more picky. But so we'll see where that goes. But we're definitely open to more locations. I think realistically that's the best way to grow it. Otherwise, the one location will kind of hit its max just based on number of dates, and we're in Iowa, so it's like winter hits pretty hard, right? So like most people get married outside at our place. So like once they start going indoors, you're talking smaller weddings, which is fine. We still get a good amount of them. Just we're not going to fill every single date, and we're not going to start filling, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday weddings sort of thing either. So we definitely do other events other than weddings, but they're not paying 10 grand. It's like $1,000, $1,500.
Right.
Great, and we're not talking we're going to grow like 20% the next year or something. So
yeah. So that leads me to my next kind of question: is you just bought another business, so
yeah.
You're thinking bigger than maybe this business can get you to, in terms of how big you want to scale and grow. So,
right.
How did you find this other business? Tell me the story.
Yeah, so I think I just kind of hit, and maybe everything I was just kind of saying kind of like leads into like why, kind of shows my mindset of like why, like because we are going to hit a point where we are capped at the one location at the venue. But the venue got me to a point where I got to like quit my job. Got my wife out of her job. Then we were able to hire a couple managers. Now we have 2 great managers. They're mostly doing all like the client, like all the face-to-face client stuff, all the back end stuff too. We're mostly like property maintenance and management at this point. Especially me, my wife, like even oversees the managers. I'm getting more and more deeper away from the client side, sort of thing. So I kind of just got to a point, I got on Twitter, I started kind of telling our story. That led to a lot of like consulting and meeting a lot of people and exploring a ton of different things on that side. So I wouldn't say I got like bored, but I was itching to do something essentially. And like I said, we were looking at venues to build in different states, but interest rates were super high, prices were kind of crazy. So I did want to kind of hone in more on the wedding venue side. But then this business kind of popped up more locally. I have 2 young kids now. So it just felt like the right timing, I guess. Like I felt like I couldn't. It was we would basically have to risk it all again to go build another venue, which is fine. And not that we aren't risking a lot buying this business. But it just felt a little different. Like I was trying to scale basically on the venue side, and I just kept hitting like walls because it is like another like huge project. So found this coffee company for sale, had 4 locations, coincidentally one like right next to our house. It actually didn't like have the name of it when it was listed, but I could put the pieces together. And this was a shop that like we went to all the time. We actually met a ton of couples at when we were building the venue because we didn't have where to meet them. So it was essentially like our office. So it kind of felt like home a little bit, close to home. And I just felt like it was easier to scale, even though it's a lot harder in a lot of different ways. And people were like, why are you going in the food and bev space? And I kind of told myself it was different. It was a little limited food and beverage, which it is. It's not a full-on restaurant, but it's definitely food and beverage. I think I just told myself to make myself feel better.
Yeah.
But the idea was like, okay, it's like coffee, it's doing decent as is. Like we can come in, we can kind of put like our design touches and style into it. We can update the shops and kind of build it out a little more modern, like we did the venue that worked well for us, better branding, all these things is kind of what we saw. And then we figured a couple of them have like good sized spaces. We can get more events going in there, use like our knowledge from the event space. We actually just bought like a coffee camper, so now we'll be able to like take that up to the venue and have like couples renting at the venue, and it'll be great for like branding and getting it back and around the area. So that's kind of like what we felt like we could do. We were kind of in the hospitality space, so yeah.
Okay. And how big was the business when you bought it? And when was it? It was last year, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, so I think I started. I think back in March actually is like when I like sent out the LOI for it. It was kind of like a long process. We didn't actually end up closing until like late July, which felt like forever. So like last like August was like our first like full month of operating. Four locations, doing a little over 1 million in total revenue. Yeah, and we recently, just as of last week, actually like officially dropped like our rebrand that we've been planning for like 7 months or so. Bought the coffee camper, looking at other locations now. So we'll have our own beans and stuff to like sell online, merch and things like that, which wasn't a thing before. So trying to add in a bunch more revenue streams essentially.
So it sounds like, I mean, I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and the creativity element of
Yeah.
you, like design, branding, like I can see that it's definitely bigger. Where does that come from? Is that
Yeah, it's a
you,
good
or is it more
question.
your wife, or is it both of you guys?
I think it's both
Where
of
does that come
us.
from?
I think that came from like doing the venue is like we really the entire time we're like we don't want to just be like a barn. We don't want to just be like another building essentially, right? Like we didn't want our branding to be like such and such barn or such and such event venue, you know. So we went with like it's called the Midnight Gem. And a lot of people are like, that's dumb, you know, blah blah sort of thing. But it's like different and it's made us stand out. Twitter makes fun of us that it sounds like a strip club, whatever. But so I think it was just different than most venue like branding. So then it's really just kind of been growing on that. I wouldn't say there's like a deep history. We always like real estate. We like design. That's why we like design the whole building and the property. So kind of carrying that on to our other businesses now.
My wife and I are similar. I can recognize it because we just redesigned our house and added on like a back covered porch, and so we're also very kind of created. Like her and I would never have a business together because we'd kill each other. But not, but like, and I mean that in like the most loving, true
Yeah,
way
no,
possible. But like when we just like love design, interior design. We've never hired an interior designer, so I can recognize that
yeah,
specifically in you.
yeah. I guess I mean we did our first house we bought. We called it like a mini flip. We did like mostly like all cosmetic stuff, but we did like everything like new flooring, painted cabinets, things like that. And then we actually ended up building our second house when we were still pretty young, and that was like right before the venue. So that also kind of played in like that gave us the confidence like build the venue, even though it was like not even remotely the same, but like we thought it was. So yeah, we definitely always kind of been like that.
So how old are your kids?
Yeah, so we have a 3.5 year old now, and a one soon to be 2 year old in July. So both boys,
Boys, girls?
crazy.
Both
Both
boys?
boys, they're crazy, but a lot of fun.
Is that it, or are you done, or you have more?
That's it right now. We'll probably have more. So
Nice. I'm in the same life spot. I've got my son just turned 4 this week,
okay,
and
very
then
close.
my daughter is 2.5,
Okay,
and then we have another one on the way who'll be here in
hey,
June.
congrats. Okay, yeah, you're
Thank
just
you.
like a hair above me,
Yeah,
basically, like timing and everything. Um,
yeah,
nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. I joke that my business and my second baby are the same age.
we
Yeah.
we kind of always joke that we like that we start a business, have a baby, start another business, have a baby, and that's like one then the other of sorts. I don't know if we get bored or what, but did I lose you?
I lost you. Can you hear me?
Aaron, you there?
Alex?
Shoot.
Can you hear me? Alex, can you hear me?
I can now. Sorry, I think that was on me. I
Oh,
don't know. My internet decided to kick me off for
yeah,
a
I just
second.
checked mine because I was like, oh no, is it me again? And
No,
it wasn't. My internet's
no,
working. So
no, no, it's me. Sorry about that. Um,
no worries. All right. So we'll start again from here. Um, so you bought these four locations. They're averaging $250,000 in revenue per unit. Is it a local brand that you rebranded, or is it national, or like what's your plan for the business?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So local brand, not a franchise, anything like that. Um, they, I think the original, it was called Coffee Emporium before. The original one was like in Cedar Rapids. There was like one that was like started like 10 years ago. And then this person that I bought it from bought it not that long ago, actually. She only had it for a few years, but she basically took the Cedar Rapids location and then opened another one. Actually, ended up selling off the Cedar Rapids location, and then basically scooped up like two other like older coffee shops from this one guy, and then built out another. So she ended up like compiling like four, but they were all very like she basically just like got them and then like slapped their brand on it. So each like coffee shop was like very different, like no brand consistency, like didn't change the aesthetics at all. Like, so some of them were shops that had been shops for like 15 years, which on one side is great. On the second side, like tons of deferred maintenance, more than we even probably realized, and just like dirty, to be honest. So we always knew we wanted to come in, kind of clean them up. And the plan was like always to rebrand. It was like the branding was like decent to where they had like it was decent enough to have like loyal customers, but I didn't think it was anything that we wanted to take and try to scale. Essentially, it didn't really fit our vibe, and yeah, it was just very like I think they were using like the excuse of like being like a local spot to like not update or do anything, which honestly is pretty common in this space. Like it's great to be local and be on a budget. I understand, but like picking up furniture from Goodwill is not shouldn't be okay essentially, but it's essentially what happened. So
How are the margins on the coffee business comparatively to the wedding business?
yeah, so definitely lower. You're more like you're basically in that like food and bev range of like 15 to 20% is probably average and doing decent. If you're getting up to like 25, I would say 30 is probably unheard of. I mean, it could be better. Or what I
And
like
this
to
is
guess
in
is
food and
like
bev?
I think so. I guess maybe I don't know, but maybe
Okay.
lower. I see like teens sometimes is like good.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's like a coffee shop. So essentially falls under that. What I did like about it was like labor was lowish and like leases were pretty low because we're not on the main corner of the high, like in that ultra drive through kind of spot that's paying like 10 grand a month, sort of thing. So I always felt like there was um, if you could like get those to actually have like decent revenue, like the margins will be way better just because like lower fixed overhead essentially. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, the venue is definitely a lot better. You're like a good 25-30% pretty easily. It kind of just your biggest costs are basically your property. And we did build when rates were lower and things like that. So like, yeah, we can actually make a good amount of money there. But again, we'll get capped at some point and can't really scale without building another $3 to $4 million property, essentially. So,
Okay. So Twitter's become a big part. Is that where you get a lot of customers from? Or like, how is Twitter, I guess X, I still will always call it Twitter. How
same.
has that impacted both businesses, and kind of what's your relationship to Twitter look like today?
Yeah, so definitely not like any customers as of yet. We'll see maybe on the coffee side, maybe I can get some people buying some beans and subscriptions online, but um, mostly just getting connected with like-minded people. Being in the business space, finance space, real estate space. I kind of like enjoy it all. Even with you and franchising side, now being on the coffee side and thinking about that those sort of things. That's mostly what that's coming from. Actually, I did raise some capital for the purchase of the coffee shops, and all those guys came from Twitter or X,
That's cool.
which is pretty crazy. Yeah,
How much
and
did you
yeah,
raise?
300K, basically from it was like a group of like three friends. So they're kind of like counted as one almost, and then like two other guys. So like three different groups kind of are guys basically. Um, so yeah, it was great. Honestly, they're all I feel like they're all more partners, and that's kind of how we set up the model too, versus like trying to do like some like real estate raise, with GPLP kind of waterfall kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a
Cool.
crazy concept, but yeah,
Yeah.
it felt normal.
And then you write a lot of content. Where does that come from? How does your content strategy look? Is it just, hey, I'm going to write stuff that comes to mind and put it out? Is it like, hey, I'm going to put out this many pieces per month, or I'm going to write this many hours? Like, what's your system look like?
Yeah, so I've definitely been lacking pretty hard, and I took a decent break from Twitter, especially right after we got the coffee shops. Just kind of entered into a different phase, season of life there. I had like a decently young kid too, and we just purchased those. Um, so I took a little break, but like before that, yeah, it was really just like wedding venue stuff. I got started just like watching. I think I started as like wedding venue guy, and there was like strip mall guy. There was like all these like guy accounts. I was like probably one of the last few that like actually got semi big, like using the guy kind of thing. And at the time, I didn't realize how many of them there were. I only saw like the car wash guy, strip mall guy, like some of the bigger ones. So I did start like anonymous at first, and then like with that, I was like sharing my like our numbers essentially. From the venue. So we're sharing like revenue numbers. I'd share like all of our expenses. I'd break down like the bar revenue on events, and that just got a lot of engagement. So definitely like mostly where my followers came from. And then I didn't have no game plan. Still don't really have a game plan. Probably should. But I would say like I went in waves. Like I was on it all the time. Like probably way too much, commenting on like everything back and other people's, and then I've kind of hit like more of like a lull of just like I almost got burnt out. But I think I'll get back into it pretty soon here. So
So, second kid comes in, you buy this other business, and you're like, holy cow, like, what am I doing on Twitter all the time? Like,
basically, yeah.
basically,
It's just like, dang, I had a lot of time on my hands before, and now I don't. It's
now I'm running this 4 location business.
yeah,
I have this
yeah,
other business and
oh
two
yeah,
kids that need my
yeah.
attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so then on top of that, my wife also started like another business too. So she actually has like
Oh, she did.
children's like boutique basically. So like a baby boutique, like baby clothes and children's clothes. And we opened up a location actually right near one of the coffee shops for that. I'm like looking to grow that online too. So it's like now we have like three businesses plus the two kids, and like sometimes they're like, "What are we doing?" Like we had the one good business and it was fine, but yeah, I technically have the consulting business too because I still do that on the side too. So I technically have like four LLCs, and it's like, damn.
What's the consulting business? I don't think you haven't told me about that one. What is
Yeah,
that?
so that
What's the
really just
consulting
came from
business?
Twitter. Twitter, like I always had so many people reaching out. I think like the venue space is intriguing. So when I first got on, it was always like, "Hey, can I pick your brain? Like, can we connect?" Blah blah. I was like, "Sure, whatever." And then all of a sudden, I realized my whole calendar was full of Twitter calls, and I was like, "All right, like no more. I got to start charging." So I made like a generic Calendly link. It's called them consulting calls. Started doing calls based on that. 50, $100. Now I charge like $450 and I get a couple a week. And then from that, that's like spent into like bigger projects of people like actually building out venues, even like hotels with like event spaces, where like the guys are usually like real estate guys or gals and focused on like the real estate hotel side. And they have no idea what to think of on the event side, but they know it can be big. So a lot of that, so do bigger projects in the 5 to 10K range that are honestly like just easy. Like it just I don't have to like prepare for it. I can just like it's all top of mind sort of thing. I can talk about our experiences and things like that. So that actually doesn't take up a ton of time, but I like it, enjoy it. So have that on top of everything else.
That's awesome. That's great. It's so wild how many things can like come out of Twitter. Like
Yeah,
if you just
insane.
write stuff online. I mean,
Yeah,
I started getting really into it really at the end of 2023 because I had a handful of people writing about our business online that had their own followings, and we were getting franchisees were finding us from Twitter and such like that. And it's become a huge part of our business. I mean, we went
yeah,
from 7% of our franchise sales revenue in 2023 coming from organic content to 42% last year.
insane. And it's only going to keep going up probably.
It's
Like
just it's just because
next year is
yeah,
going to
and
be
so
like 80, 90%.
that
Like
would be
it'll be insane.
nuts. That would be
I
nuts.
I
I'd be
feel like
happy
that's the
with
way it's going to trend.
I'd be happy with 60, but it's like it's really powerful. Like so we decided to go even more all in on it this year. Last year it was just like Aaron has a thought and then he writes, and like
Yeah,
now it's like, okay, I'm gonna block out time and like I'm gonna launch a podcast and like we're gonna build a website and like actually putting some like kind of firepower behind it. But you never know. I mean, you never know what could come out of it. You're making a few $100 every hour, hour that you talk to someone, and maybe even more than that if you talk to them more than once. Like
yeah,
just because of the stuff you put out online,
right. Yeah,
it's wild.
raise money from it. I've used in that
Then
sense. I
raise
feel
money
like
from it.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're like actually growing your business from it. So it's like yeah, double down, go all in. I haven't got there quite yet, but I see. I can see the potential, and hopefully we get there. Um, but yeah, so I'm still a little more sporadic, definitely. But it's also kind of more my personality too. I don't know. Maybe I'll double down. I don't know. I need a team. I feel like you're starting to build a team for that. It's like that sounds nice.
yeah. I mean, here's the way I look at it, and I don't know if this is helpful or not, but I think my job as the leader of the company is to do things that like only I can do. If someone else can do the thing, I should hire someone for it
Yeah,
that's really excited about doing that thing, and I should give them the encouragement and the resources they need to be successful. And then I need to do the things that only I can do that A, have the biggest lever on the business, so, and then B, give me energy. So needs to be able to drive the business forward and also give me energy. And turns out talking to people and creating content gives me energy.
yeah,
Having this
yeah,
conversation with you is exciting. So I spend a lot of time doing that, and it does drive the business forward as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. It's cool. Um, yeah, I feel like I've seen on Twitter just like people, picking up, becoming a franchisee of you guys, from that, and it's just, and then they're going to start telling their story about it, and then it's just like going to build on top of each other, and like they're going to get big on Twitter from it. I don't know, it's just crazy.
It's really wild. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a compounding thing. So, Chris Corner and I recorded some content together last
Mm,
year. Everyone
yeah.
called him out because he had me on his podcast, and we talked about how we can clean a house in 25 minutes or less. And I don't know if you
Yeah.
saw this, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, we got and we're like, all right, let's just go live and like prove everyone wrong, and we did, and then there's a franchisee that is in Connecticut. You might follow him. His name's Ethan Relander, and he had like 200 followers. And at trainings, when we go to trainings, like I tell franchisees, I'm like, hey, like this is a good use of your time. Let me tell you how. Let me tell you how I do it and why. And so some of them are starting to like a couple that you've mentioned. And so that person came from the video that I recorded with Chris Kerner. And so that content activity created a franchisee that's running his business that did, had a killer first month and is now on track to have a killer first year. And then him writing about it. And it's like, it's just crazy. Like all that stuff just compounds in a way that like, I don't know. I don't know anything else I can do that compounds like that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like eventually you're going to be at like 80-90% because like at some point they're going to have seen it on Twitter. So you're almost going to have to count it from like, or like, YouTube,
Yeah,
Twitter, whatever. It's like almost has to count as like organic because whether it's your posts or like the other guy's posts, and if you start
it
teaching
will
that
absolutely.
at your franchise training, it's like, yeah, it's awesome though.
Yeah, I will absolutely count that as if it comes from anywhere other than somewhere where we have to pay, for something for that, and I think
Yeah.
it's organic.
Yeah.
So you have these coffee stores. You want to get more of them. Tell me your plan for the business. You
Yeah.
mentioned potentially franchise.
Yeah. Definitely. I don't think we're there yet by any means, and to get things way more dialed in. But definitely an option. I think operating 50 of these ourselves doesn't necessarily sound great, and I think there's a reason like why franchising works. Like it makes sense to kind of get people more bought in at like a local level. I'd also love to like pick your brain a little bit on like the difference between like franchising and like doing like more of a licensing model. I know there's some like gray area there, but like I would love from what we're trying to do and what's working is like we have 4 locations. They're all about 20 minutes apart. You could go even tighter sometimes, but like the bigger brands have within 3 minutes of each other. We have like four, all pretty much in like one county that's in a good area. They're willing to spend a little bit more for coffee. And we're honing in on that like local aspect. So like we switched our milk vendor to be like a local milk provider. We switched like our outsourcing like our pastries to a local pastry shop. All these things. So like trying to put like all these like local vendors together and kind of like basically grow on top of their audiences too. Like everything we post, they reshare. So now it's like they have like favorites and like we're basically just like working together to create like a mini little local community kind of vibe aspect. I would love to like try to like copy and paste like that model. So like instead of just like franchising and we all use the same. I know there's obviously benefits to that and purchasing power and stuff when you have like the national kind of reps and things like that with vendors. But I think there could be a way to separate ourselves from, we're not going to compete with Starbucks and Dutch Bros and Seven Brew that are already on a tear. Like, how do we be in, B minus locations right off the beaten path that actually people want to come sit down, work, study, meet for a date, those sort of things versus like the ultra drive through model. And I think part of that will be like focusing on the local community and then also getting into like events and stuff. So want to get more deeper into like events, hosting fundraisers, even like baby showers, bridal showers, those kind of things, picking up those smaller events at our location to help like drive revenue, offer, we can start offering alcohol will be like one of our another things to kind of test out. It's like mimosas, flights, coffee, cocktails, espresso martinis are big, right? So then we could like push our hours in the afternoon, get some of those more like afternoon sales. We're really trying to maximize the revenue in our space and in our location. And again, kind of what I hinted on is like not paying the crazy lease price for the best location. And maybe this is just, being a small player kind of talk, and eventually you have to, I don't know. So it's kind of like where I feel like you could get someone to almost like license the model and use the brand, but then, they pick up their own like local pastry provider, they pick up their own local milk provider kind of thing, and kind of grow it that way. Just, yeah, something I'm tinkering with in my head, essentially. Still super early, so we'll see.
You think it would be, you thinking it would be a different logo, different brand, different that kind of stuff per market, or same brand, same logo, same?
It could be. I mean, ego wise, probably want my brand, right? But like that, I guess you could look at it two different ways. I didn't really think about it. I was thinking more like same brand, get known to be like one of our taglines, like your local caffeine dealer kind of thing, and kind of like playing and rolling with that.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, generally very high level, the difference between a licensing model and a franchise model is, on a licensing model, you're going to have less protection as the licensor or the franchisor from someone potentially harming the brand, competing against you in the future, rebranding, doing different logos. There's a reason why franchisors are so heavily regulated. It's so that the brand as a whole can be protected from potential bad actors. However, the licensing model works. I don't think it's as lucrative, but it's also not as like regulated and capital intensive and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that will. Who did I talk to last year? I talked to the guy. Is his name Squeegee? I forget his name, but his thing's Squeegee God.
Okay.
Anyways, it's like a cleaning business mastermind licensing type thing, where he sells it's like 10 grand a year, and he teaches you how to like start a cleaning business. Okay. And he was like, "Damn it, Aaron, I wish I franchised." Because it's like there's like 200 people as part of this that are all paying 10 grand a year, but like they're not all on the same brand. There's no real kind of like enterprise value for the like mastermind as a thing, because it's not like 100% guaranteed. They could churn, like, and so but there's upsides and downsides to both.
Right. Yeah. As is usually the case. Is it typically more like, if it is like the same brand, it's like you're almost like pushing the boundaries too much to like not do the franchising model versus licensing? Or that's what I've seen, I guess. It's like people scared that they did a licensing model, but you're essentially a franchise, and like how to actually draw that line if you didn't.
That is my understanding of it, is like it's almost like the licensing is like, I'm going to license it because I don't want to go through the headache of franchising and the legal and the regulatory and kind of all the stuff that goes into it. But then it's like you're still kind of more or less doing the same thing without as much protection. And yes, you have less liability, but it's also like you're going to put your heart and soul into taking these things from $250,000 a year average to whatever, $1 million a year average, or whatever it ends up being. And you're going to want to make sure that the next person that comes in is going to put the same blood, sweat, and tears into it that you would. And a franchise agreement is a good way to obligate them to do that.
It makes a lot of sense. And I feel like you've talked a lot about like responsible franchising and, getting away from the typical mindset of people, or how people look at it. I guess I think obviously you're doing a great job with that, and it's really impressive.
Thank you.
I think the food and bev space needs more of that, but it could be a
Yeah.
harder hurdle to jump. I don't know. I don't know if you have thoughts on that, but yeah, I think that's where
No,
people
I
would
don't
have
think
about it,
it's a
right?
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's a harder hurdle to jump. I think franchising in general is a very difficult business model that is very widely misunderstood. It's a difficult business model for the franchisor because the franchisor is always going to have franchisees that just don't work out. Like there's no way around it. Like not everyone's cut out for business, and very rarely do the franchisees that don't work out accept responsibility for it not working out. Like it's always going to be,
It's always
it's
going to be
always going
the
to be the franchisor's fault, and
Yeah, it's true.
you know, and you just try to basically kind of like minimize that as much as possible and help people on their way out just as much as you would help them on their way in.
Yeah.
But it, putting up capital and starting a franchise is also it's also very expensive because I think people, at least people who own businesses, see franchising as an opportunity to scale without putting a bunch of money out because they'll just have franchisees put the money out and then kind of support them to run their business. But the business model of franchising is the franchisees need the most amount of support when they produce the least amount of royalties. So they need your help the most and the help from your team when they produce the least amount of money to support you or to support you paying for your team to do that. And when you scale, a franchisor really doesn't start to make a ton of sense till like 40 or $50 million in system-wide sales. Because the staff that you'll need to get the business to 40 or 50 million in system-wide sales is the cost of the royalties that you'll bring in. Yeah, from up to that. So you're going to burn a lot of money, and you have to find the right franchisees and make sure that they have the support they need and get that business to 40, 50, 60 plus $1 million in system-wide sales. And then you have this beautiful, what we call royalty self-sufficiency, where the business without franchise sales pays for the infrastructure to support owners. But a very small percentage
Actually get
of
to that.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely. I feel like people. Yeah, there's a lot of opinions out there, obviously, and it probably sounds a lot easier. I don't know. They just see the massive scale and the reach it can have, which is obviously the benefits. There's obviously drawbacks. Nothing's ever as easy as it seems. Learned that hard way for sure. So
yeah. There's always room for more good franchisors in the franchise industry, in any industry, whether it's coffee, power washing, home services, commercial services. Like, we need more people coming into the industry who know what they're getting themselves into and have the resources necessary to do it, which is part of the reason why I create the content that I create, is like, here's what it is, here's what it isn't, so that people know and they can come in like eyes wide open.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's great, obviously, what you're doing, but we're definitely a ways off. We need to tune in and dial in and test out some different things. I think we're still definitely in the testing phase. Like you said, we might test out alcohol. I do think there's a way to scale decently without a ton of capital. There's a lot of shops we can probably pick up that are existing local shops that are doing okay, and people are just burnt out, and you can basically scoop them up probably with seller financing even. And that can be an easy way. We're actually looking at one next week.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
So we'll kind of see how that goes, that model, or that makes sense in my head. We'll see if it actually plays out that way. But and kind of what we're doing now is basically took a local brand and shop and kind of rebranded it to ours and give it a little more push. Still don't think it's going to compete with like the huge brands or anything like that, but could be a good way to kind of get a couple more locations under our belt too.
I love it. Well, Alex, this has been an awesome conversation. Where can people find you if they want to talk to you, or they want to learn about events or acquisitions or do
Yeah,
consulting?
all the things. Um, yeah, they can find me mostly on Twitter. Wedding venue guy still. Alex Nelson's the name on it. Yeah, DM me. You know, you can probably find my email out there if you really want. Yeah, be happy to kind of help on any of it. If you want to build a venue, if you're going to buy a business now, I love talking about all of it. It can likely help. So we've learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes. So yeah,
Awesome. Well, thanks, Alex, for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon.
cool. Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it.